Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Audrey. I am a UX designer and researcher, and maybe some of you know if you watch some of my videos before, but being a designer is a second career for me. I used to be a therapist and I still do a little bit of coaching, but I switched from doing therapy full-time to doing most of the time design, UX design and research. So I wanted to talk about something a little bit more personal. It's not necessarily something that I do super frequently on this channel, but I wanted to talk about the transition of having a second career and why it's difficult and how I try to overcome that. So even though a lot of my content is more like around UX design, this kind of applies, I think, to a lot of people who are considering switching career or are kind of making that transition. So if you're someone who is transitioning or thinking about transitioning, I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about. I think there are multiple things that can be very challenging about transitioning career, all the way from learning a new skill or having to go back to school. But I think the thing that I found really difficult was kind of having to start from scratch. There was really this impression that I would have to take a junior position again. It's very humbling to start a new career in which you don't necessarily have a lot of knowledge and to have to start from scratch. So there's definitely some self-confidence that it's challenging as a self-confidence level where you're like, is this the right thing? Am I even good at this? And depending how long you were doing your previous job, what I found is that personally, in terms of therapy, I had not been practicing for that many years. And so I cannot imagine, even for someone who's been doing the same thing for 10 years, how it is to start a new career in something that you have very little knowledge on. And to start this training path and everything, because you kind of get a little bit comfortable, I think, where you're at, or at least you develop kind of an expertise, and when you're switching gears and getting into a new career, you don't necessarily have this level of comfort. There's definitely kind of a learning curve before getting there. So I think it can be very challenging in terms of self-confidence, and I can understand why in this position a lot of people will hesitate to do the move. That can be very scary to try something new in that way and potentially fail. I think ultimately this is what it is. When you try something new, you open up the door for not being good at it and also failing and potentially having other people seeing that. So I wanted to get a little bit more into how I overcame this, how I was able to say, okay, feel all of those things and also be able to kind of acknowledge that and also successfully transition. So these aren't necessarily tools that will work for everyone. I just wanted to share my personal experience of what I thought was useful when I did this transition. And yeah, if you have other tips or questions, don't hesitate to leave them in the comments below. I'm sure that other people watching this video maybe will benefit from that. So I think a big part of being able to push through that and to still go through the discomfort of switching careers is I tried to really focus into why I was doing that. I feel like if you're kind of shaky and not very entirely sure about why you want to do this transition, that's where it can become very kind of confusing about, is this the right thing? Is it even worth putting myself through all this discomfort if I'm not sure if it's going even to bring any form of reward or be worth it. So I feel connecting to why you want to do that, and I'm supposing here that maybe you've already done some research into what you wanted to transition to, is very helpful. Personally, trying to connect into okay, I'm really interested into the tech industry. I feel it's a dynamic industry. I want to maybe do something that's a little bit more creative and artistic, and that involves research more. So for me, I was very excited about UX. So when I had moments of self-doubt, connecting to that was really important for me. Another hurdle and things to kind of get over and that I try to remember was the same thing that I've experienced when I started this channel, even though it hasn't really been a long time, is just getting started. I'm sure I will look back on those first videos, and I did, and be that's embarrassing, or that's not the quality that I aspire to. And I think about my first portfolio and that I've submitted for review, and I kind of feel like that a little bit. But at the same time, it's really what allowed me to progress, is to put something out there and start having other people's feedback, and to practice and practice a lot. So it takes the humility of like being able to receive the feedback, but also like not blaming myself too much of like, it's okay to put something, like to be a beginner and to put something out there that is not perfect, just in order to get started, because everybody starts somewhere. Sometimes it can be challenging because when you're starting something, you're going to look up to people that have been in the field for a while and are doing things really good, and you're like, oh, my things don't look like anything like that. But I'm sure that if you look at the early work of these people, maybe it's not available anymore, or if you ask them, they'll probably say something similar, that at some point you just need to get started, get over it, and start getting feedback, and this is how you'll improve. Another thing that I thought was very helpful is to ask for help. Again, it's a little bit similar where, you know, sometimes when we start something new, I know I have this feeling that I want to be very private about it. I don't want people to see me fail or hesitate. And that can be uncomfortable. So asking for help has been very helpful for me, in the form of finding people who are already working in the field that I had a good relationship with, or if you don't, you can always hire someone that, you know, as needed basis. There are some mentors that are very affordable. I can leave a few links below of people who offer mentoring or places where you can find mentors. Yeah, I found that asking for help was very helpful because there's only so much you can learn sometimes, where you kind of feel like stuck if you are self-learning, but also sometimes you just don't know the skills or the tools that you will need to learn or master for transition. So I found that having someone who would maybe check on me, or that I could easily ask questions to if I had, has been very useful, and kind of avoided that I got stuck for too long on something. The last thing that I think was very helpful for me was to connect with peers, to connect with other people who are also going through the same kind of transition. And I think it was helpful because on one hand, I think it was very validating. I was like, oh, I'm not the only one struggling to learn visual design and to struggle with that, like, because I have more experience in research, like there are other people who are also struggling with that. But also it kind of created a little bit of accountability. And I mentioned that before, but I'll leave them in the description below again. Different groups that you can connect to, especially in UX. And ideally, I think if you're watching this post-COVID, it's really nice. You're going to be able to find people, groups, maybe local groups to go to, like in person or events. But there are a lot of groups you can join online as well, and you can create your own circle of peers. You can ask if other people are also transitioning and try to meet each other like monthly or on a regular basis. I feel like it's really kind of motivating to kind of get out of your bubble of like, I'm alone doing this transition, and connect with other people who are going through something similar, just for accountability as well. I think is really nice. So I transitioned from therapy to UX, but I really hope this was helpful maybe for other people who are thinking of changing career, regardless of where you're transitioning from. But I would love to know in the comments below if you are someone who's transitioning or having a second career. I'd love to know what was your career before and what you're transitioning towards. And if you have any tips, maybe for other people watching this video, that would be very nice to leave them for these people as well who are watching. And yeah, thanks for watching this, and I think I hope this was helpful. Bye.